Okay, welcome to part 11. Again, this is going to pretty much follow on from where we left off last time, which is where we're going to start creating these two functions. So the first one we're going to create is the validate conversation ID. And all this is going to do is simply check to see if the user is a member of the given conversation. So it's going to return false in two situations, either if the user isn't a member of the conversation or if the conversation doesn't exist. So we're going to define this function in our private message backend file. Oh, actually, something we forgot to do in the last part is add a comment about what this function does. So it's pretty obvious actually, but let's just say it fetches a summary of the conversations. I don't know. Anyway, so we're going to add this validation function right at the bottom of the code. The reason I'm doing this, by the way, at the bottom is, I said that twice, is that I generally do fetching functions first, then creating, then updating, which we don't have any of yet, anyway, and then validation right at the bottom. I don't know why, it's just something I've picked up and then always stuck with. Anyway, so what we're going to do is create a new function, which is going to be called validate conversation ID. Going to take a conversation ID as its parameter. I should have abbreviated conversation to something because it's taken quite a while to type out. Anyway, so what we need to do is make sure that this is safe for use in SQL before we use it. So we're just going to do conversation ID equals int conversation ID. And then we're going to run some SQL, which is actually a little bit long. Not really complicated, but it's not really a one-line type thing. So we're going to create an SQL variable and set that equal to a string. So the query we're going to be running is a select query. We're going to be counting the number of rows because we just need to know if this data is in the table. So we're going to count 1, which is just a quick way of counting the number of results effectively. We're going to be selecting this from the conversations members table. Done that again. And we're going to be selecting the well, we're going to use a few conditions here. So first we need to make sure that this well, we need to use the conversation ID provided, so effectively making sure that this conversation exists. So where conversation ID is equal to the conversation ID, and also you need to make sure that this user is a member, so and user ID is equal to the user ID stored in the session from when they logged in, and also we don't want to include deleted conversations, so conversation equals 0. Okay, so when we run this, we'll either get 1 if the conversation is valid, or false if it isn't. So obviously first we need to run the query, so we'll do result equals MySQL query of SQL, and then down here we're just going to return the result of a check, and that check is going to be MySQL result. So this is actually fetching the result from the query, and we're fetching from the query result and the 0th row, or the first row, and we're going to check this to see if it's equal to 1. If it is equal to 1, that means the conversation ID is valid, and if it's not, that means it's not valid, which is the condition we're checking. So if we go back to our inbox page, this check here is effectively checking to see if any of these conditions are not true. So if the conversation ID doesn't exist, or the user isn't a member of that conversation, or if they are a member but they deleted it, this will return false. Okay, so that's basically that. So the next thing we need to do is create a method to actually delete our conversation. So we're going to add this just below this here. Actually, let's just quickly comment what this does. Checks to see if the given user is a member of the given conversation. Close enough. So down here, I'm going to create a new function called delete conversation. And this is actually quite a complicated sort of function because it has to make sure that the data is only removed once all of the users that are members of that conversation have marked it as deleted. So there are a couple of ways we can do this. The way I've chosen is, well, I'll show you the way I've chosen. So I'm going to copy this line down because we need to apply the same check, same data value, sanitation, whatever, to make sure that the conversation ID that we pass into this function, or are about to pass into this function, is safe for use in SQL. Then we're going to run a little bit of SQL. So the SQL is going to be in this SQL variable again, because again it's a little bit too long for a single line query. And we're going to select the value of the deleted column from the members table, where the conversation ID is the one specified. So this is effectively, why can't I type select? This is effectively going to be if, well, it's not going to be if anything, it's going to be the list of who's deleted it, I guess. So anyway, I'm going to select the conversation deleted column from the conversation members table, and we're going to be selecting where the conversation, where the user ID is not equal to the current user, because we don't really care about the current user. We're going to act based on all of the other users. So if all of the other users have marked it as deleted, we're going to delete the data because we are now marking it as deleted, and then everyone has, so we can delete it. And if all of the other, well, at least one of the other users haven't marked it as deleted, we're going to mark ourselves as deleted, because then when they mark it as deleted, it'll remove the data then. Anyway, so basically just discounting ourselves by adding this check here, and oops, getting that right. So session user ID. Okay, and there we go. And also, obviously, we need to be counting or getting the data deleted, where the conversation ID is obviously the conversation specified. So we're just going to add a AND here for the conversation ID, and it's got to be equal to the conversation ID variable. Okay, so that's our SQL. And what this is getting is a list of, like I said before, a list of ones and zeros, true or falses, as to who's deleted the conversation effectively. So say for like 10 users and 5 of them deleted it, you'll get 5 ones and 5 zeros. Now we don't necessarily need all that data. What we need is the number of distinct values. So one way we can do this is by using the distinct keyword, which does have an N in it somewhere. There, I hope. And what this does is effectively the same as PHP's array unique function. It only returns unique values from the column or from the selection. So if, say, like the same example, 10 people and 5 have deleted it, this won't return 5 ones and 5 zeros. It'll return 1 1 and 1 0, which is just a bit less data than we, bit less data really. So then we can use this to, well, obviously first we need to perform the query, which we're going to do by using the MySQL query function. I'm going to store the result in a variable called result. There we go. That's not what I meant. There we go. And then we can get the value of this and check to make, well, we can get the number of rows, and if that is 1 and the actual result is 1 as well, that means all of the values, however many there are 1. So this sort of saves us having to loop over all the values, basically. So what we're going to do is check to make sure that, well, we're going to check to see if, I guess I should say, MySQL num rows of result is equal to 1, and the actual results results 0 is equal to 1 as well. And if it is, if both of these things are true, i.e. there's only one row, which means there's only one distinct value, and that value is 1, that means everybody except me has deleted this conversation. So then we can go ahead and delete the appropriate rows from the various tables. So we do that by using we use 3 MySQL queries. So we just do the MySQL query function 3 times, and the SQL that we're going to be running is pretty short. We can do this in line, and it is delete from table name, so conversations will be the first one, where the conversation ID is equal to just the conversation ID, so like so. I'm just going to copy this down for the other 2 tables and change conversations to the table name. So conversations becomes conversations, no, it becomes conversations members with 1M, and down here it becomes messages. Okay, so that will actually remove all of the data related to the given conversation ID. So what we want to do, if all of the users haven't marked it as deleted yet, is what I explained earlier really, but we need to run some SQL to update the current user's value of the conversation deleted column. So again, this is fairly straightforward, but we're going to define it in an SQL variable because it's a bit long. It's about the same as the select distinct query. Anyway, so this is an update query, and we're going to be updating the conversations members table, and we're going to set the value of conversation deleted equal to 1, which means they have deleted it, where the conversation ID is the one specified, so that's just this. Okay, and then we also need to only do this for the current user, so and user ID is equal to session user ID. And obviously this query needs to be executed, so we just need to add a MySQL query for that. Okay, so that should be our delete conversation function pretty much complete. So the last thing I'm going to do is just comment what this does. So deletes or marks as deleted a given conversation. Okay, so we should be ready to test this out now. So let's just go to our browser, and we'll just do a reload to check for syntax errors, of which there were none. So we'll just click on the little cross, and MySQL numbers expects parameter 1 to be resource boolean given. So what's happened here is we've deleted our data, but not really meant to, I think. But well, anyway, let's just see what's happened. So MySQL numbers expects parameter 1 to be resource boolean given would suggest that this select distinct query has failed, and that I believe is why. That should be deleted, not deleted. Or wait, hang on. No, yeah, that's right. What did I have before? Delted. Anyway, let's go back to our. Well, let's just see what's happened to the database. This will have returned false, which means this should have happened. So we should be able to just update it manually. So let's go to our table and log back in. Yeah, I've set myself as deleted. So let's just edit this row and set this to 0. And if I just go back and reload, that's still there. Okay. So we can try again. I'll just click cross again, and now there are no errors, and my conversation will have been deleted, hopefully. So let's just look at the table again and hit reload. That's not really what I wanted to reload. So yeah, there you go. You can see I've been set to 1 for me. And if I log out of the message system and log in as Bob, which I can't really do easily. Okay, there we go. If I log in as Bob, whose password I hope was that. Nope. What was Bob's password again? I have no idea. I'm gonna have to update it. Bear with me. Okay, I've fixed Bob's password, so let's just try and log in again. And there we go. So you can see that this message still appears for me, well, for Bob. So if Bob deletes this, and we check the table, we should see that the row has now been deleted, and the members table has been deleted too, and so has the messages. So there you go, that's our delete method working, and I'm going to end this here, and then in the next part we're going to move on to the view conversations page, which is where we're going to allow people to actually add messages. Okay, so thank you for watching, and come back for part 12. I think it might be 11. 12, I think it's 12.